Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms chats. And it's still time to enroll for your students for the upcoming school year for 2022-23, which I'm getting used to saying now. A few months ago, it felt really weird to say that, but I'm getting used to the idea that next school year will be 2022-23. And what's exciting is that there are multiple new charter schools opening in San Antonio in August 2022. And so today on the blog, we reshared our post, the Great Hearts Enrollment Guide, and we're featuring on Charter Moms Chats, we're talking about Great Hearts Invictus, which is a new Great Hearts campus that's going to open on the northwest side of San Antonio. And the headmaster of Great Hearts Invictus is Matthew Vlahovich, and he is an experienced Great Hearts school leader. He was the leader at Great Hearts Western Hills, which is kind of in the SeaWorld area. And he came from Arizona, where there they call the lower schools the Archway campuses. So he was a teacher and a school leader at lower schools in the Phoenix area. So Matthew, very happy to have you on Charter Moms Chats, and we want to talk all about Great Hearts Invictus, since it's like the new Great Hearts campus that's coming in August.
Yeah, thank you, Inga. I really appreciate you having me on, and excited for campus number 6 now in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so I'm assuming that some folks are tuning in probably because they're excited about Great Hearts and already curious about it, but some people maybe have not heard of Great Hearts and are not exactly familiar with what classical education means. Like, what does it mean that Great Hearts is a charter school that offers a classical education? So can you offer a little bit of background for people who are just getting up to speed?
Yeah, so I didn't get a classical education background like many of the teachers and parents that end up coming to Great Hearts. But as I learned more and more about it, right, I think it's a couple of things. For one thing, it's not a novel idea or a trend, and I really appreciate the humility that I sense with classical education, that there's this idea that we are stewarding. Right, there's a passing of the baton, and our job is to receive the baton and to pass it without playing with the baton. And so it is really based on classical languages, classical civilizations, the ideas that came. I tell parents on tours, it's like if you could imagine a tree with all kind of the ideas that formed us as Westerners, whether that's liberty or right, even just like what does it mean to be human and to have a good life. Great Hearts kind of follows those down into the trunk and down into the roots. And we find those books where those ideas really are formed and wrestled with, and we engage with our students in those conversations. Really, again, kind of this passing along of what we have inherited along to the next generation. I've started thinking through when I taught 5th grade, the best thing was always to find some kind of an analogy of something that the students knew and to say, so that like this is kind of like that. So my background is music. I love music. I love all kinds of music. And I have now a 6th grader and a 3rd grader. And so on days that I drive them to school, we do themes. So Mondays usually are Mozart. Tuesdays have been Motown. Wednesdays I'm into the Beach Boys. So I just love sharing kind of the little stories about the songs and what was happening in history when they were written. And it's fun for me to listen to them, but I get to share this thing that I love with my kids. Right, and the things that we're doing at the campus go far beyond the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds, but we have a building full of teachers that love whether it's literature or chemistry, and they get to come into this classroom, and I think kind of with that same spirit. It's good that you're here, and I love this thing, and I can't wait to help you love it also.
Yeah, like that love of the subject matter, like not just thinking about pedagogy or like classroom management. I mean, sure, Great Hearts covers those things too, or like as far as the professional development, like the teachers have a grounding in that, but a lot of them come from backgrounds of like like you with your background in music, or maybe a teacher who studied history in college, and then Great Hearts helps them become more effective in the classroom. But the part that you can't fake is
That's
just
right.
how obsessed they are with history, right?
Yeah, so you can imagine, I mean, we just have some of the most delightful conversations during lunch, right? There's there's not a whole lot of what happened last night on The Bachelor. There's more, oh, I have to tell you about this book that I'm into. And so really just really fun conversations. That also goes a long way, right? I don't want to, I don't want teachers to come for a year and then leave. I want teachers to feel like they're a part of a really robust and engaged intellectual community. And so this is a fun way for them to come and share their love and passion with the students, but also for our PE teacher to spend some time with the art teacher and learn to watercolor on the side, just because it's fun and he's always wanted to.
Right, right. So, well, for the students who are getting a classical education, for parents who are wanting to choose this for their children, what are some of the benefits that children get from experiencing classical education as opposed to, sort of more like modern theories of, how schools are run?
Yeah. So I think the first is right, just that we have these people that love what they're there to teach about. I know, so I have again my boys. I think for the better part of a decade, we've been watching the Wildcrats on PBS, right? And there's just something about when there's a teacher, right? And it's easy with starfish and sea turtles and those things, right? But when you have somebody that's like, guys, we're going to learn about pronouns today, right? Because there are some things that are intrinsically interesting to kids, but there are other things that when they see an adult that they trust and that they know, and there's a little twinkle in the eyes, and they're ready for whatever we're going to learn. So just being with really, really great teachers, exploring ideas and having conversations. It's not uncommon to come by a classroom that's discussing something they're reading in literature, and the kids have like two or three fingers in the book, and they're ready to share, and not just to say, well, I think this, but to say, on page 27, the author tells us. I mean, just the level of discourse, right? And that we're studying things because they're good, right? We play classical music. The students learn it, and can appreciate it, and point out the difference between a bassoon and a French horn, not because we're a music academy, right? We're not this factory that is trying to develop people that do X. And so that's the thing I really love, right? As a music major and a musician all through junior high and high school, I had to do the music thing all the time. Right. And so the way that our curriculum is built out, everyone will be in Shakespearean productions. Everyone will take studio art. Everyone will be in a choir. And so there's not this kind of narrowing, right? There's this big, broad, let's learn about the solar system and about how plants reproduce and about grammar and Latin. And there's a big plate with lots to eat.
Yeah, right. The students can be well-rounded and they can experience like of the range of human civilization, right? Like so many different art forms and right, like the way our history is taught, they start with prehistory and go through, so many different eras of history. So yeah, students get a lot of exposure to it. And they get to do stuff hands-on. They get to get their hands dirty and get a little messy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and it's not just that we're looking at art and appreciating it, right? There is that element of let's look at this masterpiece and let's learn a little bit about the artist. But then what is the artist doing? What's that technique? And then let's pull out the watercolors and we're actually going to teach you that technique. And add that to your toolbox. So whether you're a stay-home mom or a doctor or you go into West Point, no matter what you do, we've kind of loaded up the toolbox and helped you with developing intellectual and moral habits, so that you're set up for lifelong learning.
Yeah. Speaking of art, that's one of the distinctive things about the Great Hearts campuses is that there are reproductions of great works of art from all of human history, like hanging on the walls. And there's always a Raphael School of Athens prominently displayed, right? So this
Yeah,
idea of like one academic community should function like.
yeah, yeah, and I tell parents, we're really our curriculum is really intentional. In that art in the hallways is really intentional, because kids will learn a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of things just by being alive in the world that you pick up, but we really feel again that baton that we're passing, that there are certain things that unless we share with the child, they won't get. And I made the reference earlier, about the Beach Boys and pop culture and those things. I tell parents, we're not anti-hamburger, but if we can curate a really good steak, and your students can know and taste and develop a love for really good steak. Hamburgers are fine, but we know that hamburgers are not the same thing as a really good steak.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Well, okay. So this is great. I feel like I hope this discussion has helped the listeners, the viewers, to get a better sense of what classical education is about and how it's expressed at Great Hearts. But I want to ask some specific questions about Great Hearts Invictus because, as you mentioned, this will be the sixth campus, and there's already existing campuses. I encourage everybody to go to on SAChartermoms.com. We've got the guide, and there's also the Great Hearts websites that talk about the other campuses, but what's newsworthy is Great Hearts Invictus, the new campus. So can you tell us about like where it'll be located, what grade levels it'll serve, when it opens, things like that?
Yeah. So again, we are a fully public, tuition-free classical liberal arts school. There's not a test to get in. There's not tuition. We want as many students, right? The reason we keep opening these things is because we want everyone to have access to something like this. So with the Invictus campus, it is on Bandera, just outside of 1604. We're going to open up in August. So I am busy hiring people and we're ordering books and doing all those things. And when we open the school, we will open with grades kindergarten through 7. I'll be one of those people with a 7th grader. And so he eventually over time will matriculate and that will be our first graduating class. So we will be all the way K-12, but this first year opening K-7.
Yeah, I always tell families that whenever there's a new campus opening, like that's your chance. That I know a family. Our daughters have known each other since preschool, and they unfortunately applied and got waitlisted 5 years in a row at the campus closest to them. And but when a new campus opens, it's not just kindergarten; it's all the grades where there's lots of open seats. I mean, of course, the employees get first dibs, right? The teachers get first dibs, and
that's why a lot of us end up working for Great Hearts.
That's right. I've seen it. No, like the best, parent volunteers. Before you know it, they start. Well, they fall in love with Great Hearts. They start working there, and then next, they've got a cousin or a sister-in-law who starts working, so they so they can get their kids in. And I've seen the pattern. Yeah. Well, and then, gosh, I mean, I remember when Monte Vista opened as the first campus, and still Monte Vista, because it's near downtown, sometimes families who work downtown will drive in. So, it's probably the most spread out student body, but, families from Bernie and Lytle and Pleasanton and, New Braunfels, driving into Monte Vista. Now they don't have to drive as far because, right, the families in New Braunfels can go to Live Oak, and the families in Bernie can go to Helotes or Forest Heights or, things like that. So it's, the campuses are becoming more localized to their neighborhood. So maybe there are families that are at other campuses and they can transfer to Invictus if it's closer to home. But the upshot of this is there are open seats. So don't be discouraged if you've tried to apply to Great Hearts and got waitlisted before. Again, that's why Great Hearts keeps opening more campuses, is because all the campuses have been running waiting lists, and so the demand is there to open an additional campus. Okay, so we talked about, let's see, let me make sure I get the good stuff on the screen. Okay, so the website, Invictus, greatheartsamerica.org, and that'll take people to like the address and things like that. It's going to serve grades K through 7 when it first opens, and then adding another grade each year, right? So your 7th grader will be part of that founding group, and then he'll be on that leading edge up until there's a graduating class, right? So let's see, that would be 2027? No. That would be, is he class of 2027?
28, 20, I don't know. I'm going to be so old.
Anyway.
That seems so close and far away at the same time.
I know. It seems impossible, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. But yeah. Like when people, like the Super Bowl halftime show. Oh, I'm sorry, getting into pop culture here, but yeah, like everyone go, wow, it's not like the Rolling Stones. They got music for. Oh wait, we're the old people now. Oh well, it comes for all of us, right? But I'm sure there are, plenty of like Stoic and Epicurean philosophers who have things to say about that, right? That
sure,
right? It's like we need to expect our death and just prepare for it, and that can help us deal with things like the fact that we now feel old because it's our people from our youth are on the Super Bowl halftime show.
That's right.
So, okay, so well, I want to talk to you about. I mentioned in the intro that you've been a Great Hearts teacher in Arizona. You've been a Great Hearts headmaster at Western Hills. Now you're in this kind of startup mode, interviewing and giving tours to families and things. But but you kind of think back on like, stories you've seen of like that demonstrate Great Hearts culture, because I feel like this is, I mean, I encourage every family, if possible, take a tour, because we can try to describe it, you kind of have to see it. But like, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about those things like the concerts and like poetry wars and humane letters seminars, and there's just so many unique
Yeah.
things about Great Hearts culture.
Yeah, and I having had so many years in the lower school, I have a handful of examples from that. Right, I gave a tour my last year in Arizona, and at the very end of the tour, I'm always curious. I said, "How'd you hear about Great Hearts?" And this young lady said, "Well, my mom was at the grocery store, and she was up at the checkout aisle, and she heard these two kids talking about Charlotte's Web." And she asked their mom where they went to school. And then she called me and said that I have to bring her grandchildren to whatever this school was, just because of the level of conversation that was going on between these second graders about friendship in Charlotte and Wilbur. Um, it's boy, I remember we were at a field trip, and we were at a park the kids had just eaten. There was not like, it wasn't a fun park that had swings and things, right? Just mostly grass, and a couple of soccer balls. And so I was talking with some other teachers, and we looked over, and it just was the weirdest thing. It looked like a cross between dodgeball and like sharks and minnows, where all the students lined up, and there were a handful in the center, and all the students would run across the field, and the ones in the middle were throwing the balls, and then other students were like helping drag like the casualties off the field. And so we went over and we're like, "What are you guys doing?" And they said, "Well, there was nothing to do, so we thought we would invent a game. And so this is the Charge of the Light Brigade." So they had all memorized it at the beginning of fifth grade and just decided like, we'll do Charge of the Light Brigade. Just fun stuff. My boys are a real hoot, and so it was fun. We went to go visit family over the winter break, and we're at the airport, and we got all these really weird looks because we're playing. I'm thinking of an animal. I've got a third grader and a sixth grader, and so once we rule out invertebrates. Right, the next question, really popular, is the mammal. So, is it a mammal? Okay. Is it carnivore? Is it terrestrial? Right, just the types of questions that they're like limiting, the classification, instead of like, is it a penguin? Is it a hippo? Is it a crocodile? Right, that they've learned how to think really critically about, what are the good questions to ask at the beginning. And so it's just really fun. I think one of the great things, again, we're not doing this because we want to, there's not some end of, come here, good SATs, good college, good job, jet skis. It really is like, what's just good for kids. And so watching the smiles when the chamber group comes to perform, seeing students as they work so hard to prepare their poem, right, that there's precision that's required, that we're like training the attention span to be longer than 10 seconds, and they get up there and they cross their arms and they recite in front of the class. There's just something really powerful about, these are just good things to learn, and you can see that it's nourishing, right, and with no end, right. I still play the French horn, and it's not because I ever want to be in a symphony. That ship has sailed, but it just brings me a lot of joy, right. And so that we're able to share these various disciplines in areas of study with these students, and they just can delight in it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about like the students talking about Charlotte's Web in the grocery store, because they've already been seminaring about it in their class, and then the fact that the students could invent a game based on Charge of the Light Brigade, like having these elements of the curriculum that are very thought out, very deliberate, and all the students are learning them. Like so, I've observed like mixed age groups, right? Like the fifth graders are talking to the second graders about what poems they learned. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then,
Yeah.
the funny way memory works is like for the fifth graders, those poems are still back there somewhere. And once they get going, they start chanting them all
Yeah.
together. And then so they have this like common element of culture to talk about. And whereas pop culture can be kind of dividing, right? Like so some people support this sports team and some support that other sports team, or some people watch this show and some kids, oh, my parents don't let me watch that show, and so then it becomes something where they can't find common ground because they don't have all that together. But then if there's a set of books and poems and pieces of music they can all learn together in school, then that's what they can talk about, like even at recess
Yeah.
or at lunch, like or in the hallway. Like those are, well, they're usually quiet in the hallways, but those are the things that they in the
That
fishbowl, right?
shared
When they're
experience. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and those are things that can be like touchstones for life. So if they're trying to make life decisions, they can think back about the historical figures that they learned about, what challenging decisions they faced, and then try to let them that guide them to make better decisions
Yeah.
in their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need more of, because these are challenging times. But we're trying to prepare our kids as best we can for a world that's really hard to anticipate. Like what
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of jobs my kids are going to do, but I'm going to try to arm them as best I can to be good
Yeah. That's
decision
right.
makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you for families who are kind of on this school choice journey and trying to research this, like what advice do you have for them, like as they're kind of researching Great Hearts? Like what questions should they ask on a school tour, or what should they look at on the website, like the book list, or things like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think all those things, right? Snoop around online, but then come to see it. Like I think you had mentioned earlier, right? I can say that our halls are quiet, but that's not the same as seeing quiet halls. I could talk about the way that students discuss text, but there's something about going into the back of a classroom and watching it happen. We do a really specific thing, right? I used to have parents when I worked in Arizona. There was a basis school down the road, and they would always say, "Well, what's better? Is it Great Hearts or basis?" And I would say, "Well, what's better, a hammer or a screwdriver?" Right? If you need a screwdriver, the hammer is not helpful. You want the screwdriver, and so you know your kids, you know your goals and hopes for your kids, and the values of your family, and so come and snoop around, right? And hopefully you either think we're nuts or there's something about what you see that resonates and you go, man, I'm so glad that they're opening so many seats this year. But for sure I would say come and see it. And right, even as you're looking at things, it'll prompt questions to ask. And we for sure want to make sure that everyone is informed as possible, that no one's going to come into my office in October and say, you don't have a computer lab. And I would say, I'm sorry that you thought we did. Right. We want to make sure you have a lot of information and can make good choices.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so okay, I'm going to put the website back on the screen. So invictus.greatheartsamerica.org. Is that a good, like, so if families are interested in school tours or things like that, what are the best places for them to get information?
Yeah, from that website, you can follow links. It's got our contact information, a phone number. We'll eventually, I think, hopefully soon have an app that we'll be able to roll out for our families, where they can access kind of a shortcut to where those things live online. But yeah, that the website and the phone number are going to be the best ways to get a hold of us.
Okay, and then so if anyone's listening on the podcast and not on the video, the phone number is 210-322-7294, and the website is Invictus, Invictus .greatheartsamerica.org. Yeah, and so this is for kids who will be going into grades K through 7 next year. Those are, and it's amazing to have like open seats in that many grades. Like that
Yeah.
only happens when there's a new campus.
Yeah, right. And it's a unique challenge, an opportunity really when I'm interviewing candidates and talking about launching a new school. And right, there's going to be like 700 students that show up on August, whatever that first day of school is. In Inga, they didn't pick us, right? There will be kids that are dropped off against their will at this new place, and so it very much is on our radar to make sure that we win their hearts in that first 10 minutes, in that first day, in the first week, and that those students know that they're in a place where we care about them and we're going to do some really fun, important things together. And to make sure, right, starting in those classrooms and even going out to the parent community, right? If you have a kindergartner, we'll be hanging out for the next 13 years. And so we want to do things. We'll eat together and play together and have kickball tournaments and all kinds of ways for parents to come, for students to come, and for us to really grow a really special community.
Yeah. Wait, do y'all have a mascot yet, or school colors, things like that?
We're the Highlanders. which
Okay.
I love because Helotus hosts the Highland Games every spring.
Yes.
And so I
Yeah.
love that.
My son loved the caber toss in particular. So yes,
Yes,
and actually
yes.
I have ancestors from the Isle of Skye. So it was important to me to yeah, McInnes, McKinnon, McDonald. It was important to me that my kids see the Highland Games and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. One of my ancestors is apparently really good at throwing rocks.
Yeah, so we're excited about rubbing shoulders with the Helotus community and businesses. And earlier this year in the fall, they have a 0.5K in Helotus, which is delightful. And so we participated in that, and we're just thinking, next year we could sponsor, and each of the grade levels could come, and we could encourage families to come, and let's be good neighbors to the Helotus community as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's where okay, I remember seeing, like, plaid on, some of the like, you have a plaid tablecloth or something for the is that right? Or is
Yeah,
it bright
so
green? Oh, okay.
we did this job fair last weekend, and I thought it'd be really cute, so I wore a kilt, right? Because like that
Yeah.
I would stand apart doing that. After about an hour and a half, I realized on all of our marketing and branding, nowhere did it point out the fact that our mascot is the Highlanders. And I thought, I'm just the guy in the kilt now. There's no connection with what's going on at the school. So yes, we are the Highlanders, and we will advertise that more and more as we go
Okay,
forward.
good, good. Okay, well, that's good. Okay, well, we as HRMs can do our part to get the word out about that. So, but yeah, but
Great.
that yeah, that's wonderful. It adds to the range. I mean, there's the lions and the owls and, all kinds of Spartans, like, lots of different mascots. So, yeah, it's good. Yeah, wow. I remember when this was just an idea like that,
Mm.
like, gee, okay, there's this new school called Great Hearts and they're applying for a charter, like, okay, this is like, we need this, we need a great books education, free public K through 12 setting, and so it's really exciting to see it build out to a six school community.
Yeah, yeah, really
Yeah.
excited to be a part of the growth. And again, right, if my school means that someone doesn't have to drive 45 minutes each way, then that's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put one more time, I'll put up on screen. So invictus.greatheartsamerica.org. That's the website. So Great Hearts Invictus, new campus coming to the northwest side of San Antonio in Helotes at let's see, outside Loop 1604 off Bandera, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, grades K through 7 starting August 2022. It's really exciting.
yeah, very exciting. Thank you so much again for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and good luck with all your interviewing and tours and things like that.
Thank you. Take good care.
Okay, take care.